90%. That is the number I want to start with today. 90% of women over 60, in my estimate, based on 18 years of watching this pattern move through my practice and through the research on how senior women manage nighttime pain and sleep, are doing something every single night that their liver is quietly paying for, without knowing it, without being warned, and without the one piece of dosing information that would have changed everything. Here is what the package insert doesn't tell you. The habit itself is not illegal. It is not reckless. It is something most doctors have recommended without a second thought. Something most pharmacists have dispensed across the counter without a word of caution. Something that, on the label, looks completely safe. The problem is not the habit in isolation. The problem is what happens to that habit inside a senior woman's liver, specifically after dark. The evening winds down, the dishes are done. You take what you take every night. The same things you have taken for months, maybe years. Something for the joint ache. A glass of wine to help you unwind. You go to bed. Your body rests. Your liver does not. Here's what I see in my practice every single week and what nobody warned these women about. I started asking every woman over 60 one specific question. Not what medications they took. What they took in the 2 hours before they went to sleep. And then I started cross-referencing those answers with their liver enzyme panels. What I found, quietly and patient after patient, I could not unsee. Size. I had a patient, 68 years old, mildly elevated liver enzymes for over a year. Her previous doctor had called it age-related and moved on. When I asked what she took before bed, the answer was there in her first 2 sentences. My name is Dr. Sophie Martin. I am an internal medicine physician. 18 years in private practice, working exclusively with adults over 50. And what I am about to show you is exactly what that nightly habit is, why it matters for your liver, specifically as a woman over 60, and what you can do about it tonight. Think of your liver as a factory running the night shift. The day crew clocks out. The orders do not stop. The same volume of work, processing everything you consumed, every medication, every substance your body needs to clear, lands on a skeleton crew working slower, with fewer resources under higher pressure. That is your liver after midnight. And in a senior woman's body, that night crew has been quietly shrinking for years without a single announcement. Here is what that factory is doing while you sleep. Your liver's primary detoxification phase runs overnight. While your digestive system rests, your liver leads. Its master defense molecule, glutathione, peaks during sleep. Glutathione is what neutralizes the toxic byproducts your liver produces while it works. Without enough of it, those byproducts accumulate. In women over 60, liver mass runs approximately 20 to 30% lower than in a man of the same weight. Same dose of any liver-processed substance, proportionally higher load on a smaller organ. And postmenopausal decline in CYP450 enzyme activity, the enzyme family that clears most medications, means what a 40-year-old liver processes in 4 hours may take your liver 6 to 8. The numbers behind this are not small. Acetaminophen is the leading cause of acute liver failure in the United States, documented by the FDA and confirmed in the New England Journal of Medicine. The majority of those cases involve doses above the recommended limit. But the recommended limit itself is exactly where the problem begins. The standard package ceiling, 4,000 milligrams per day, was established in clinical trials conducted predominantly on healthy adult men. The American Geriatric Society and multiple hepatology guidelines now recommend a ceiling of 2,000 milligrams per day for adults over 60. Half. The dose printed on the package your pharmacist handed you. It was not calculated for your body, your liver mass, your enzyme activity, your age. The dose that was called safe was not calculated for your body. That is not your fault, but it is your information to have. The habit is acetaminophen, paracetamol, Tylenol, the pain relievers sitting in more senior women's bedside tables than almost anything else. Taken nightly for joint pain, for headaches, for the low-grade aches that arrive with age. Taken because it is not ibuprofen, which everyone knows is harder on the body. Taken because the package says it is fine. Taken because the doctor said so. The package does not say what happens when acetaminophen shares your liver with one glass of wine. When acetaminophen and alcohol meet inside the same liver on the same night, they produce a toxic metabolite called NAPQI. Your liver's glutathione reserves are what neutralize NAPQI. They surround it, bind it, clear it before it can damage liver cells. But alcohol depletes glutathione, the very molecule your liver needs to neutralize the byproduct of the acetaminophen is being dismantled by the wine you took an hour before. In a senior woman whose glutathione production has already declined with age, what remains cannot fully do the job. NAPQI accumulates. It damages liver cells. And this is not a dramatic overdose scenario. This is a quiet, nightly, cumulative process happening in the liver of a woman who believes she is being careful. And then there is the dose itself. The 4,000 milligram daily ceiling on that package, the number that made this feel safe, was not built for her. For a woman over 60, hepatologists now recommend 2,000 milligrams per day. A single nightly tablet runs 500 to 1,000 milligrams. Most women taking it nightly have never been told the ceiling for their specific physiology is half what the label states. Her doctor prescribed it. Her pharmacist dispensed it. This is the conversation that should have happened at the pharmacy counter. It didn't. So it's happening here. What makes this harder to catch is that the liver does not announce this kind of damage early. No pain, no jaundice, no signal. Enzyme panels can show mild, persistent elevation for months and be attributed to age, while the nightly pattern continues underneath. Have you been taking acetaminophen nightly? For pain, for sleep, for any reason? Without knowing the dose on that package may not have been calculated for your body? Tell me in the comments. Because the number of women in my practice who did not know this, it is the reason I made this video. Write this down. This is what changes tonight. And I want to be clear, and this is not complicated. It is 4 things. First, calculate your actual nightly acetaminophen load. Not just the tablet you take deliberately. Every source, cold medicines, sleep aids, combination pain relievers. Many of them contain acetaminophen and never say so on the front label. Add the total. Most women who do this for the first time are genuinely shocked. What felt like a 500 milligram night turns out to be 1,500 when everything is counted. Second, bring that number to your doctor and ask one specific question. Given my age and sex, what is my appropriate acetaminophen ceiling? And has my liver function been checked recently? Not your general medication review, that specific question. It opens a conversation that should have happened years ago. Third, separate the wine and the acetaminophen. This is not a recommendation to stop either. It is a recommendation never to combine them on the same night. That combination, on the same liver, in the same evening, is the specific risk. one change, one night at a time. Fourth, explore what works for nighttime pain without the hepatic load. Topical NSAID gels applied directly to the joint deliver effective localized relief with minimal systemic exposure. Magnesium glycinate before bed supports both muscle relaxation and sleep without touching your body's processing capacity. Low-dose melatonin, zero point 0.5 milligrams, not the 5 to 10 milligram doses commonly sold, supports sleep without adding to your liver's overnight workload. And warm compresses with gentle evening stretching address the mechanical side of joint pain before reaching for anything chemical. This is what I discuss with every woman over 60 in my practice who mentions nightly pain management. The alternatives are not a downgrade. For the right type of pain, they are often the better answer. I want to take a moment here, because what I have just shared is not easy to sit with. You follow the instructions, you read the label, you took what your doctor recommended, and the information you needed was never given to you. That is not carelessness. That is a system that did not complete the conversation. Here's the part that matters now. The liver is the only solid organ in the human body capable of significant regeneration. When the source of chronic low-grade stress is removed, when the nightly combination stops, when the dose is recalibrated, hepatic function often begins to normalize within weeks to months. Early-stage enzyme elevation from this pattern is one of the most reversible drug-related findings in clinical medicine. A simple liver function panel at your next routine blood draw establishes your baseline and tracks exactly what changes when you do. Your liver, even after years of nightly stress, responds when you remove the cause. It is the most forgiving organ in the body when given the chance. What I am asking you to change tonight is not dramatic, but what it gives your body's processing capacity the chance to do over the weeks and months that follow can be remarkable. Your liver works while you sleep. What you give it before bed determines what it does all night. I want to take a moment here, because what I have just shared is not easy to sit with. You follow the instructions, you read the label, you took what your doctor recommended, and the information you needed was never given to you. That is not carelessness. That is a system that did not complete the conversation. Here is the part that matters now. The liver is the only solid organ in the human body capable of significant regeneration. When the source of chronic low-grade stress is removed, when the nightly combination stops, when the dose is recalibrated, hepatic function often begins to normalize within weeks to months. Early-stage enzyme elevation from this pattern is one of the most reversible drug-related findings in clinical medicine. A simple liver function panel at your next routine blood draw establishes your baseline and tracks exactly what changes when you do. Your liver, even after years of nightly stress, responds when you remove the cause. It is the most forgiving organ in the body when given the chance. What I am asking you to change tonight is not dramatic, but what it gives your body's processing capacity the chance to do over the weeks and months that follow can be remarkable. Your liver works while you sleep. What you give it before bed determines what it does all night. I want to tell you about Helen. She was 67 years old. Independent, precise, the kind of woman who read every label and followed every instruction without being asked twice. She considered herself a careful patient, and by every measure she was. For 2 years, Helen had been taking 1,000 milligrams of acetaminophen every night for hip pain, well within the package limit as she understood it. Most evenings she had a glass of red wine, something modest, something she had been told was fine, possibly even good for her. Her annual blood work had flagged mildly elevated enzyme levels for 18 months. Her previous physician had reviewed the numbers, noted them as likely age-related, and scheduled her for repeat testing. Nobody had asked about her evenings. She came to me for a second opinion on her hip pain management. During that first appointment, I asked her one question. "What do you take in the 2 hours before you go to sleep?" She told me. Nightly acetaminophen, nightly wine. 2 years without interruption. The connection was immediate. And when I explained what those two things were doing together inside her body every night, I watched her face change. She said quietly, "I did everything they told me to do." 3 months after stopping the nightly combination, Helen's enzyme panel came back closer to normal than it had been in nearly 2 years. She told me she had started taking magnesium glycinate before bed instead, that she slept better, that she woke up without the low-grade heaviness she had stopped noticing because it had been there so long. She had assumed it was age. It was not age. What Helen carried out of that appointment was not guilt. It was information she should have had from the beginning. That is all this has ever been about. A safe dose printed on a package is not a guarantee. It is a starting point, calculated for an average body that may not be yours. A senior woman's body after 60 is not average. It is specific. It deserves specific information. Your liver function panel has your name on it. Every number on it belongs to you, not to your physician's chart, not to the system that generated it, to you. And you now have the language to ask for it, to understand what it means, and to know what has been causing those numbers to move in the wrong direction. You came into this video not knowing, you leave it knowing. That is not a small thing. That is tonight. That is different. Here is what we covered today. A nightly acetaminophen habit, combined with even 1 glass of wine, places measurable cumulative stress on a senior woman's body every single night. The dose on the package was not calculated for her physiology. And 4 simple changes: knowing your total nightly load, asking your doctor the right question, separating the combination, and exploring the alternatives can give her body a genuinely different night starting tonight. Did you know, before today, that the safe dose on that package may not have been calculated for a senior woman's body? Tell me in the comments, because your answer tells me exactly how many women are still taking this information home for the first time tonight. I started this channel because I can only see so many patients a year. But what I just told you, about the dose that was never calibrated for your body, about the combination that nobody warned you about, that conversation should not require a $300 appointment. Share this with one woman in your life who takes something every night without knowing this. That share matters more than you think. Take care of yourselves. Your body works through the night quietly without complaint. Give it a fair night's work, not an impossible one. Everything I have shared today is grounded in published clinical research and 18 years of patient care. But it is general information, not personal medical advice. Acetaminophen is an important medication for many conditions, and changing your dose without medical guidance is not always appropriate. Please bring what you have learned today into a full conversation with your own doctor. Ask specifically about your enzyme levels and your appropriate ceiling given your age and health profile. That conversation, direct, specific, and unhurried, is exactly where this starts.